Welcome to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Hello, Floridians, and welcome back to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. Today, Captain Rick Murphy and myself, Brie, Gabrielle, are hanging out with a bunch of college kids in the studio, and they love to fish. Who couldn't be more excited than that, right, Rick?
You're absolutely right, Brie.
Well, we have to welcome our guest, the workbench, Scott Martin. We're happy
What's
to
up, guys?
have
Thanks
you
for having me.
Bass us with your presence.
I'm going to show you some awesome tips. You're going
Get
to catch some big fish.
Sounds good to me. All right, Rick. Well, it's all about the bass, or the bass, that is. So why don't you tell us some bass facts?
Well, you know, Florida has some monster bass, and, you know, we brought in the man, Scott, the #1 ranked guy in the world. And the key is that we're going to teach you guys and our reporters, all of our captains are going to tell you where you can catch more bass and bigger bass. So let's get started, Brie.
Let's get started. All right, to give us our very first report for tonight is Captain Jim Ross in the Central East region. So let's hop to it, Jim.
Oh, I tell you what, I spoke with one of our local bass fishing tournament anglers, Bryson Wright, and he was giving me the skinny on what our local anglers around here in Central Florida are going to expect right now and over the next couple of months. Now, Bryson was saying that with so many lakes and rivers and creeks in this region, the bass can be caught just about everywhere. But apparently, the bass fishing right now is really on fire because he's saying it's taken about 20 pounds on average just to win the local tournaments that are held in this region. Bryson also said anglers should focus on what he called vegetative communities, and things like reeds, lily pads, hydrilla, kissimmee grass. They're all holding fish at this time of the year. And he says, especially around that kissimmee grass, that the Bass Assassin Die Dapper or the Assassin Railworm rigged on one of the 5/0 Assassin screw lock hooks is a really good bait to use. You can also slow troll that bait instead of burning it or cruising it on the surface if the fish drop down during the mid-morning periods and still catch them. Now, once the midday period comes around and the sun gets nice and high, he switches over to that Bass Assassin HPC, which is a heavy punch crawl, and does a little bit of flipping, and he uses that blue shadow color, which is kind of like a June bug. He's using a 1/2 ounce tungsten weight because he said the vegetation isn't really thick in some of the places that he's fishing. He's using a 5/0 flipping hook and 65-pound braid line. Now, Bryson says over the next few months, the fishing's only going to get even better as the water temperatures start to cool, especially on Lake Kissimmee, Toho, Washington, and the Garcia Reservoir. Now, I've got a picture of Adam Brands from Central Florida, and he got a 6.5-pound bass on a speed worm like that railworm here on Lake Monroe recently. Of course, he's wearing his used University of Central Florida colors, as you can see.
Yeah, man, what a great fish. All right, what else you got for me inshore?
Well, I'll tell you what, the redfish are getting better. The Thousand Island area in the Banana River and some of the islands in the Indian River are doing pretty good. Down in the Honest Johns Canal area, Rick. And anywhere from about Wabasso down to Vero is also doing pretty good for the reds. You want to use soft plastic lures, and you're using the little 4-inch saltwater assassin sea shad on like a 3/0 weedless worm hook, or you can go to that 5-inch bait if you see a lot of needlefish and ballyhoo in the area. Now, if you're not seeing a lot of finger mullet, ballyhoo, that sort of thing, the easy way to do it is just get a chunk of bait and put it on a 2/0 or 3/0 size of EMC circle hook. That should get the job done. Now, the other place that you can catch redfish right now is the inlets. The fall mullet run is in full swing right now. It's going off in most places, and if you find fish piled up around those rock jetties at the Ponce Inlet, the Cape Inlet, and down at Sebastian Inlet, you're going to get a lot of shots at big, oversized fish. Now, our average slot fish is running about 22 to 24 inches, and our average inlet fish is running much larger. Almost, some of those fish are running 50 inches. Now, I've got another photo with Sean Mager. He sent me this picture of a 38-inch redfish that he caught on a hookup jig head and a finger mullet combo while he was fishing in Ponce Inlet just last week. Now, going offshore, we're not going to go too far because the bluefish are running along the beach as well. And, of course, it's been going strong with that live bait that's working down the beach. Put a slide and sinker rig out there, a hookup jig head, or anything that looks like a mullet. An X-Wrap lure is working really good, especially when that tide's moving. And the size 8, 10, and 12 are the 3 best sizes in that X-Wrap lure to use right now. So if you want to cast and catch fish, that's the best way to do it right now. Those bluefish are running about 1 to 3 pounds.
All right, Jim, before you tell us about amberjacks, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Navionics from the Central East region. Now, we're talking about right out of Canaveral, guys. We're talking about the Canaveral bite. And if we take a look at the sonar soundings, there's a definite contour or a ledge right here. And according to Captain Jim, what these fish do, the tarpon, the mackerels, get up on top as well as they swim down this edge. Now, the other thing that comes to mind this time of year is all out in this basin or out off the shore here, look for floating debris. Or if you want to catch a triple tail, you can obviously hit all the different markers. That'll give you a better idea of how to catch all that stuff in that region. All right, Jim, what else you got for me? Tell me about those amberjacks.
Well, they're holding on those 120 to 220 foot depths right now, Rick. The structures, the big structures, the big wrecks are the best ones to fish on right now, and live pinfish, croakers, and grunts seem to be the best way to go about getting one hooked up. You want to put those on a Suffolk 80 to 120 pound class leader, depending on water clarity. A little cleaner, drop your leader size down a little bit, you'll continue to get those bites from those AJs. The Williamson Vortex Speed Jig is also a great one if you guys want to go out there and crank a little bit. The Pink and Glow or the Chartreuse and Glow models are working really, really good the last 2 weeks. The one thing that's the downside to going AJ fishing right now is that the sandbar sharks are eating a lot of them. So use heavy tackle whenever possible to get those fish up and away from those sharks. Most of our AJs are running 25 to 40 pounds, but I tell you what, some of those fish are coming to the scales pushing twice that weight. And I've got one last photo. Robert Miller sent me this picture that he caught a 9-pound bass on Lake Toho the other day using a Rapala F13 plug in the gold color. So there's a great tip for you guys and gals that are going to go fish Toho over the next week or two.
Thanks for all the great picks. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hookup lure hotspots from the Central East region. Inshore, snook and redfish at Sebastian Inlet using X-Rap 14 diving plugs on a nighttime outgoing tide. And then offshore, dolphin, wahoo, sailfish in 120 to 180 foot depths, troll skirted or naked ballyhoo on a 4 to 6 knot. Anything naked is gotta work. Don't you think, Brie?
Yeah, sometimes. With your Yeti Northwest Region Weekend Report, Captain Jeff Hageman, also endearingly known as Hagalicious. It's about to be Bassilicious over there, isn't it?
Right now, the bass fishing's been pretty good. Right now, most of our fish are those schoolie-sized fish, and they're being caught first thing in the morning, late afternoons, chasing those little schooling minnows that are out there in the middle of the lake. They're looking for that cool water. Once that water gets a little bit warmed up during the middle of the day, they're going to move underneath the vegetation like Jim was talking about earlier. The winter months really is when we catch our bigger fish, and it's when that spawn happens. Most of the guys get out there, troll shiners, plastic worms, hard baits, all effective. Another kind of unique thing we do in our area in the Lake Tarpon thing is we'll actually go out and catch shad with a really fine mesh cast net and chum shad up, catch shad, put oxygen on them, keep them all day, and we'll actually go out and snook fish like we're snook fishing. We'll go out with our chum bats and sprinkle the shad out there along the coastline and get the bass popping, and then pitch those shad out there on little light spinners and catch a lot of fish that way. But we got a lot of places you can go. You don't have to have a boat in our region. There's a lot of docks. Check with your local bait shop in your area, and we have got such a big area I can't go over all of them, but check with your local bait shop and they'll be able to point you out on a shoreline you can fish or a dock you can fish if you don't have a boat. Moving inshore, our snook fishing right now has been really good throughout the whole Tampa Bay and around Tarpon Springs and Anclote. Fish are still on the beaches, but some fish are starting to push back into Tampa Bay and back into their wintertime haunts, getting ready for this. We've had a couple cool days right now and dip down in the upper 60s already in some parts of my region. So the fish are starting to make their migration patterns. So they're going to be in transition mode. You want to look for fish around any kind of deep structure, docks, anything with moving water as they filter back to their wintertime haunts. And they're very grouped up right now, so they're nice and easy to catch on a good moving tide. We got this moon right now. Evening, late afternoon under some dock lights. We'll also be producing some really good fish. And I got a photo here of some nice West Coast redfish.
Man, those are nice fish there, Hag. All right, let's go offshore, bub.
The snapper fishing right now throughout my entire region, from 8 feet of water on out to 80, everywhere I seem to be hearing reports from inshore to offshore. Mangrove snapper are really grouped up right now. We got good moving water, like I said, with this moon coming up right now. So chum, 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 and they will come. You can bring them up right back behind the back of the boat. Use a light line, light little tiny hook. Hide your hook. They got great eyesight. Feed them back in your chum. Fish right now are averaging anywhere from 1 to 3 pounds, with the occasional fish in that 4 to 5 pound range. And also throughout my region, the grouper fishing right now seems to be throughout the whole region. Rock piles, ledges, flat rock bottoms. That 75 to 120 is where you want to target. That's where most of the fish are being caught, the reports I'm getting. Pinfish, cut sardines on a standard bottom rig. Fish up to 10 pounds are pretty caught consistently with 3 to 12 pound average. You want to use 60 to 80 pound Suffolk mainline. 100 to 125 pound fluorocarbon leader, and a 6/0 to 9/0 BMC circle hook.
All right, what else you got for me, bub? Is that it?
That's it.
All right, thanks. That's a great report from the Yeti Northwest region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Drummond Community Bank hotspots. Captain Jeff says inshore, redfish on the bottom of the tide in the deep cuts and adjacent to the mangrove shorelines on flats and cut bait. And then offshore, snapper on the high relief structures, 8 to 40 feet of water using shrimp and sardines with a light lead head. Now guys, with me is Mike and also Tom Dolan. Thank you guys so much for being with us. Now Mike, tell me a little bit about what's going on with the Florida Lottery.
One of the things is Guy Harvey. It's a great ticket. We've sold about 9 million of them since August. More importantly, about $2 million has gone to education in Florida because of this ticket.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
So what else do we need to know about as far as that ticket goes?
Okay. Top prize, $50,000. There's still 5 of those out there. If you don't win, go to flalottery.com, enter your ticket. You could win Guy Harvey merchandise, original artwork, and of course you could win a trip to the Grand Cayman to fish with Dr. Harvey.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, now Tom, you're no stranger to the Chevy Florida
It's great to
Insider
be back,
Fishing
Rick.
Report.
It's great to be back.
You're here to report about a new ticket, college ticket.
I am. It's actually a promotion, Rick. It's apropos we're here on college night because it's tied into our 5 major football colleges here in the state of Florida. So all of our players statewide that buy a $5 Fantasy 5 ticket on a single ticket will get a voucher. They can take that voucher, go to our website, flalottery.com, choose their favorite team, either Florida State, Florida, USF, UCF, or Miami, enter that voucher. They'll be eligible in some subsidiary drawings to win team gear and some tickets for this season. And then in early December, we're going to have a drawing to give away cars, $10,000 cash, bowl games, travel experiences for away games. Very, very cool stuff, experiential prizes that are really going to resonate with the players.
Wow. Yeah. Now, Mike, certainly the Florida Lotto, their give back is to their scholarships.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure they would probably have some bright future candidates in here. Tell me a little bit about that.
We do, and I asked earlier, a lot of them raised their hand, Bright Futures recipients. So far, over 700,000 students in Florida have received Bright Future scholarships funded by the lottery, about $4.6 billion.
Whoa.
And since we started, $28 billion has gone to education in Florida.
Man, you guys at the Florida Lottery have really done a great job for education. We're so proud to have you as a partner. We appreciate you bringing us up to date on the Heroes ticket. And Tom, always good
Always
to see
a pleasure.
you. And we're excited, obviously, about all the great things that we're doing at the Lotto. Brie, speaking of being excited, we got to go to another region, so let's go.
We do, but stay tuned because coming up on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, we're headed to the Southwest region, and then we're jumping off the deep end with our special guest, Scott Martin. What do you got for us, Scott? Anything
All right, guys,
fun?
we're going to be doing some big time stuff. We're going to be showing you how to catch big fish in Florida.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Chevrolet, find new roads. Yamaha, reliability starts here. Contender Boats, performance through innovation. Humminbird, simply, clearly, better. The Florida Lottery, just imagine. Decks and Docks Lumber Company, Florida's dock and seawall supplier. And King Sailfish Mounts, www.kingsailfish.com.
Which truck brand do you think offers best-in-class HD towing, best V8 horsepower, and has Motor Trend's 2015 Truck of the Year?
Ram.
Chevy.
What do you think?
A Ford.
Here's the answer. That's the Chevy Silverado HD, the Chevy Silverado, and the Chevy Colorado.
Chevy. It's Truck Month. Now qualified buyers get 0% financing for 60 months. Plus find your bonus tag and get $4,000 cash allowance on select Silverado 1500 crew cabs in stock. See your local Chevy dealer today.
Yamaha's next generation V6 4-strokes are changing the game.
Mid-range power was awesome. Fuel, the burn, it's unbelievable.
Couldn't believe the speed and the fuel economy is pretty impressive.
I mean, I couldn't believe the power. It was like it was more like doing a quarter mile on a drag strip.
And them things are like, it's a whole nother game.
So I made the switch.
Experience the difference for yourself during the Yamaha Discover V6 Offshore Demo Tour. See why we call it the game changer.
It's been said that a bad day of fishing is better than a good day at the office. But down here in the Florida Keys, we have to disagree. Because with over 200 of the world's best charter boat captains and guides, there's no such thing as a bad day of fishing. The Florida Keys and Key West.
So glad you're back because it's now time for the FWC News and Notes. September 19th, there's a kids fishing clinic in Sarasota. And also on September 19th, children in the wild throughout the state of Florida. For more information, visit myfwc.com. But now it's time to go off the deep end.
Well, welcome back to the CCA workbench, and we're here, and Hummingbird is going to take us and show us how to become a better bass fisherman. Scott Martin, Angler of the Year, FLW.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that.
BassRanking.com,
Yeah.
#1 angler in the world. Congratulations
Well, thank you.
on all the
Thanks for
great
having me.
success this year. So, if I want to catch a big bass in Florida, how am I going to do it?
There's lots of lures to choose from, but I'm going to break it down pretty simple for you viewers at home. If you want to catch big fish consistently, you need to throw a big swim bait like we have here, or flip the mats with some big creature bait.
All right, so let's start off with the rod. It's certainly not the same rod I'm going to go use for trout fishing.
No, we're dealing with big fish, we're dealing with big rods. This is my signature series Akuma TCS rod, and look at the name of it, Mat Daddy. That's for fishing those big grass mats, okay? This is a 7-foot 11-inch, extra heavy. So it's a meat stick. This is going to get those fish out of heavy cover because you've got it on braid. You need a really good smooth casting braid, 50 to 65 pound test line, and you need a good high-speed reel. This is the Akuma TCS, but it's an 8.1 to 1. So it's a fast reel, and that's real important when you're making those long casts out there in those grass beds. Those fish come up and blow up on it. You need to gather some slack and set the hook, and that high-speed reel will help get it done.
Awesome. So we're going to fish a swim bait. Tell me about this one.
You know, pretty simple deal. I've rigged that up on a weighted trocar hook, and I've got that on a bruiser swim bait. That is basically a 6-inch swim bait. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make long casts out in the grass beds, and I'm going to reel it pretty fast. There's 2 ways to do it. Steady retrieve on the surface, so this tail, this little boot tail here is kickling, gurgling, kind of like a buzzbait making noise. Or cold conditions, subsurface, 6 inches to a foot down. But again, steady is the key. Don't give it a lot of action, just reel it, let the boot tail do the action.
All right, so how's another way we're gonna catch a big fish, Scott?
One of my favorite ways is punching the heavy grass mats, especially at Lake Okeechobee, Kissimmee area, Central Florida, punching with a big, gigantic weight. Now look at that weight, Rick. I don't know if you're used to weights that big. That's a tungsten weight, 1.5 ounces.
That is a monster.
Monster. We even go bigger during the winter time, 2 ounce. 2 ounce. I'm gonna rig that up on, again, when I'm flipping the mats, 65-pound braid most of the time. I don't go 50, and I'm gonna put that on a trocar TK135 extra strong hook. Okay, that's a really stout hook, because when you're dealing with those Akuma 711, that extra heavy, that's a meat stick with the heavy braid and a big fish in the grass mats. You can't have a hook bend out on you, so that hook's important.
Now, I noticed something here. You got to explain this to all our guys at home.
I will.
This hook has been snelled.
That's a saltwater knot. You guys, you know, have snelled hooks for years, and we've kind of adopted that over on the freshwater side. Now, when we rig up our creature baits, which I don't have it rigged up on there right now, but your basic creature baits, what happens is your hookup ratio is going to go through the roof if you snell your hook to your line, and here's why. We're push down on that weight. Look at that. 100% of the time, that hook is going to leverage up, kind of like a circle hook, and that point of that hook is going to drive correctly through the top of the fish's mouth, and you're just going to land way more fish than having a regular knot
how
on
that just pops up like that.
Yeah, for
every
flipping,
single time.
that's the only knot to tie. I'm sure you can get on, you know, YouTube and get on some of those deals and figure out how to tie that. But I'm going to put my favorite creature bait on the back of that and flipping those heavy mats. Now, when I'm flipping those mats with these little creature baits like this, okay, I want a bait that doesn't have a whole lot of action. I see you've got the Bass Assassin one as well, and that's a great bait. You could put that on this as well.
Right.
You know, perfect little deal. And I'm going to pitch it in those grass mats. Here's the key when you're fishing those grass mats. You flip it in and let it go all the way to the bottom, okay? Kind of just the normal speed. And then pull it back up to the top of the grass mat, okay? And yo-yo it maybe 3 different times. And if nothing bites it on about the 3rd pull, reel it out of there and flip it to the next hole. And keep doing that until you feel that thump.
Let me ask you, is there anything specific? You're going along, big grass mat. Are you looking for something more specific or something that stands out, Scott?
You know, anytime you have wind blowing in on a grass mat, okay, the leading edge of that windy side of that mat is good. Or if you can notice where there's a cavern underneath it, depending on the type of the grass, if you can see where it looks like it's like a garage, you know, like a carport underneath. That's what I always tell people, look at the carport. If there's a cavern underneath that grass mat, that's a great place to flip your bait.
That's because that's where they park the big bass
That's
trucks.
right, absolutely.
Hey, great job. I can't wait to get back over here on the new products. But Brie, we got to have another region. Let's go.
Yes, we do. I just learned a lot, that's for sure. All right, remember guys, if you have pictures you would like to share with us, we want you to post them on Instagram or Facebook using the hashtag CFIFR, of course. But reporting to you now from the Southwest region is Captain Ronnie Houston. Let's hear how the bass bite is this weekend, Ronnie.
Well, you know what? In the Southwest region, bass can be caught through the entire region, and a lot of times in most residential canals, ponds, rock pits, golf courses. Believe it or not, right where houses are built, vehicles travel by 24 hours a day. But understand, the water travels from the northern part of the state down through the Southwest region. Now you want to try to target rock edges, matted hydrilla, culvert pipes, spillways and bridges. Basic assortment of baits include topwater plugs, 3 to 4 inch lip plugs, plastic frogs, spinner baits and buzz baits, and plastic worms. But when it comes to the soft plastic, Bass Assassin has just about everything you need. Now my favorite is the dye dappers and the creature bait, as the HPC and the pure crawl in either Gold Rush, Houdini, watermelon, and June bug. These baits can be used for catching trophy-sized bass by using a flipping or pitching method with a 4.0 or 5.0 trocar or Denny Brower hook. Also 3/4 ounce to 1.5 ounce tungsten. But the most important knot that works like a circle hook is the snell knot, which, believe it or not, I learned by watching Scott Martin's videos and seeing his success. Now, the reels and rods from Akuma, like the Komodo or the Helios, with a 7-foot rod, the 7'10" medium heavy, and extra heavy, depending on the type of lure and fishing conditions. But it's about putting in the time, and like I say, I've been fishing a lot up in Okeechobee lately, and I plan on fishing some tournaments next year. Watch those Scott Martin videos. Believe it or not, it'll help you a lot.
All right, Ronnie, let's go inshore, bub.
You know, the tarpon fishing, I'm basically fishing a pattern right now for the tarpon. Marco Island all the way to Punta Gorda, which I've been basically concentrating strictly at night. The tides have really been the last half of the outgoing to the first half of the incoming at bridges and mouths of residential and intercoastal canals. Now, all these baits are being flushed in and out, but I really think it's the freshwater runoff that's really turned on the bite. And wherever I go at night right now, I don't see anybody fishing these fish, and there's fish all over the place. Now you can fish live mullet, ladyfish, because really that's what the tarpon are feeding on. 4 to 7 inch lip plugs, but I've really been doing well with the Bass Assassin dye dappers in Snowstorm, Houdini, black shad on a 1/4 ounce jig head up to a 1/2 ounce jig head, depending upon where these fish are on the water column. And right now, these fish are averaging right now 40 to 100 pounds. Temperature's cool at night, and the water temperature's cool. That's why I think the bite's really good. Now, on the offshore side, the Spanish mackerel. Marco to Fort Myers Beach, anywhere from the beach line to 15 miles out, concentrating on wrecks, head pins, diving birds, or large bait schools. Now, the birds and the bait schools, that's running and gunning looking for this. But fishing the wrecks, or once you find the baits, simple baits like the white bucktails, silver spoons, and lip plugs will work. Also, live pilchers have been working well. Please use a trace of wires so you don't get cut off. You can get a limit. Average size fish right now are 1.5 pounds to 4 pounds. Once you find them, plenty of fish to catch. Also on the offshore side, the mangrove snappers, Sanibel to Stump Pass, fishing ledges and wrecks. 12 to 25 miles out seem to be the better size mangroves. When a chum heavy with either block chum or sandballing, you can also use live pilchers. Believe it or not, once the fish are located, really easy to get a limit. Stop by cut baits such as shrimp, squid, herring, chlorite, or white and yellow bucktails tip. Plenty of fish to get caught. Moderate weather's been working well. get out and catch some fish this weekend.
All right, thank you so much, Ronnie. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Florida Outdoor Experience hotspots from the Southwest region. Captain Ronnie says inshore redfish, lumber key to wood key, early in the morning and late in the afternoon, high tide. The outer Gulf points using topwater plugs and gold spoons is going to work best for those redfish. And then offshore, red groupers. Gordon's Pass to Sanibel, 45 to 65 feet of water, drifting hard bottom using live pinfish, white bucktails, or cut squid, herring, and sardines is going to work for those guys.
All right, Rick. Well, tonight we are announcing our winner for the Deck Out Your Dorm. Yes, we are, for the Deck Out Your Dorm contest.
Come on.
We had you post a throwback picture of your first day of school using the hashtag CFIFR, and the winner is Crystal Jodswicki from FAU. Go girl, get ready to have your dorm decked out this year. Oh, look how cute that picture is. That's exciting. All right, and as a surprise from someone in our studio audience has also won a Costa Goodie Bag.
What?
TJ Bubar from FGCU, who was not able to make it, so Weiler is accepting it on his behalf.
Weiler.
And there you have it, from Scott Martin himself.
Nice.
Yeah, congratulations, guys.
I need one of those.
And there's TJ.
There he is. I love it.
All right, well, we're not finished talking about big bass in this state, so stick around to hear more reports from the Northeast and East regions and hear from one of our special guests right here on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Reports.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventures. Guy Harvey Clothing by AFTCO. Drummond Community Bank. Costa Sunglasses. See what's out there. And Casa Vieja Lodge. 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala.
I think it's time to change my battery. Now you do it.
Get AC Delco batteries at Bennett Auto Supply. You want the power, performance, and peace of mind only AC Delco can deliver. Bennett Auto Supply. Do it yourself, but not alone.
I'm Captain Rick Murphy, and I'm a life member of CCA. Why am I so involved with CCA, you ask? Because I want our fisheries to be in better shape for my kids and their kids. CCA is working to ensure the future of recreational fisheries and the rights of recreational anglers. The future of fishing starts today with you. How do you want to leave things with your kids? If you're like me, you'll want to make the right choice and go to joinccaflorida.com right now.
Casa Vieja Lodge, Guatemala.
There are two cages in this room. The one on your right is made out of high-strength steel, and the other is made of aluminum. Now I'm going to release a 700-pound grizzly bear, so pick a cage and get in it.
Well, I'm glad I picked this cage.
Why did you pick the steel cage?
That's a big animal right there.
You want to see something else made with high-strength steel? That's the Chevy Silverado, made with high-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
It's beautiful. Look at the size of his head.
Today's Coast, a cool place and moment, certainly has to be about shocking here in the Stick Marsh. Now, the thing that was so cool to me is I had heard about how they shock certain areas in certain ponds, but to actually get on the boat with Bob Eisenhower and his assistant was awesome. And the reason why is because I fully got to understand how the whole program works, but more importantly, who can say that they actually put their hands on a 10.5-pound fish with the shocking method? Now, the way that thing works is, I assure you, it doesn't hurt any of the fish. We go along with the net and we're scooping up the fish that have actually been stunned by the electricity going through the water, and they put them in a live well. After putting them in the live well, they let them come back to where they're not shocked anymore. They're in there swimming around with the aeration going on, and then they measure each one of those fish. And that's how a lot of the biologists are able to come up with the healthiness of the lake. Certainly if the fish are skinny per so many inches, then they might have to adjust the way they manage that place. Versus if they're too fat, then there's really no problem with that. But realistically, it was one of the coolest things that I have ever done. And to be able to actually put my hands on a 10.5 pounder because of that method really reassured me in what the FWC is doing in managing a lot of these Great Lakes. Now, speaking of the FWC, Baron Moody, we brought him in, and Baron, we certainly believe in conservation, and more importantly, it's very important to the FWC to have a great bass fishery. Could be the next best bass state in the world. So, with that being said, let's talk a little bit about some of the new proposed regulations and studies that we've learned recently.
Right, we just came from the commission meeting. We have a draft rule in place. We'll be moving forward in February to go to a final rule, and it'll go into effect July 1, 2016.
So let's pull up the pictures here, yeah. So there's a bass regulation. Let's take a look at the next slide there. There you go.
Our goal here, we want to provide an opportunity for people to harvest more fish, but at the same time, we're going to be providing an opportunity for people to catch more larger fish. So we really feel like it's a win-win. Right now, we're operating under a 3-zone system. It's a little complicated. That's another advantage of the new rule that we have coming forward. It's going to be one rule statewide, simplifying things for everybody.
So let's take a look at what the new stuff is going to be.
Right. In general, statewide, we're going to move to a 5-fish bag, same as we have right now. But the opportunity will be for the person to keep 5 fish up to, only 5 fish, only one of which may be 16 inches or longer. So as this is illustrating, you could have 5 fish that were under 16 inches or 4 fish under 16 inches with one that's 16 inches or larger.
Now, why do we want to do this?
This lets us do a couple of things. It simplifies things, making life easier for anglers. It lets people harvest some fish that if they're interested in doing so, and when they're doing that, they're harvesting fish that are most apt to be males or slower growing females. And so we're protecting the larger, very valuable to us as anglers fish that are also the females that are doing a good job breeding for us.
Now, Baron, this is primarily just for the black bass, correct?
Largemouth bass, specifically, because we will have some changes to the endemic basses, the Chipola, the Swanee, and the shoal bass that live up in the Chipola and Swanee systems. There'll be some little changes there too.
Well, we're grateful for all the stuff the FWC does. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you.
But Brie, we got to go, because of our busy schedule, to another region. So where do we headed?
Yes, thank you, Baron, for being here. And we also want to thank Costa and the Florida Lottery for giving us all the swag for our audience members and their goodie bags. That's great, guys. They all really appreciate it. All right, let's head on up to the Northeast region into the Danger Zone with Captain Tommy. Let's hear it, Tommy.
Hey, Brie, the Strike Zone Northeast region, it's an awesome place to catch some bass. It's something I did a lot of when I was growing up. And it's available in just about any neighborhood pond, and that's how a lot of people fish for them around here. That's the cool thing about bass fishing here. Pretty much any body of freshwater, whether it's large or small, is going to probably hold some bass. All you need to catch them is a simple plastic worm rig or even a little beetle spin, and it's a great way to go catch some fish for the angler that has a limited time to go fishing. Now, I've got a bunch of buddies that can go to one of their ponds by their house after work, catch a couple of nice bass, and still be home in time for dinner. Now, we do have some of the best trophy bass fishing around in the St. Johns River, and there's just too many great bass fishing lakes here in the region to mention them all. One cool thing about fishing for bass in the St. Johns River and its creeks is you can catch a bass on one cast and then one of our saltwater species on the next cast because of the brackish water we have. I spoke with Captain Chris Holloman from MyJacksonvilleFloridaFishingGuide.com, and he tells me he'll fish for bass around the docks up the St. Johns River this time of year with a live shrimp under a float. He says he'll catch some really big bass, as well as some redfish, trout, flounder, and even the occasional snook. Now, as it cools off a bit, those big bass are going to get a lot more active here, and it's going to be a great time to toss a topwater plug, especially early in the morning. Now, once the sun comes up a bit, you might want to switch to something like a lip Rapala plug. And I got a picture here. This is Avery Bliss with a really nice bass he caught on one of those diving plugs right near Lake George.
All right, let's go inshore. Go ahead.
On last week's show, I talked about the redfish at the jetties, and they're still here in really good numbers. The bite at both the Mayport and St. Augustine jetties is still best when that tide slows down a bit on both the high and the low tide stages. Live mullet on the bottom is still going to be the go-to bait. We have a fairly low tide this weekend, first thing in the morning, and the shell bars along the intercoastal, north of the Volano Bridge, all the way to Palm Valley, are going to be holding big pods of finger mullet on that early low tide, and the redfish are going to be there feeding in those areas. Now, they're crushing the topwater skitterwalks right now in the bone and trout colors, but a live finger mullet or a cut piece of mullet where that water is really murky, they're going to really be working wonders right now. I spoke with Captain Ron Scher from FishingNorthFlorida.com, and he's also been catching some nice redfish in the Hannah Mills area in Jacksonville. He says this weekend you're going to want to ride that incoming tide in and target the redfish that are staging up on the oyster bars. He's catching them on soft plastic paddle tails rigged on quarter-ounce jig heads. Now, the bull redfish are still going strong as well. Captain Ron says they're chewing best on the end of the tides in the St. Johns River from the Dames Point all the way to the Little Jetty. He's fishing in about 45 feet on the edges of the channel using a cut blue crab on a 7/0 VMC circle hook. And in St. Augustine, we're still catching those big reds at the inlet as well as at, along the intercoastal and at the bridges. Again, cut crab or mullet fished on the bottom is working best. And speaking of oversized redfish, I got another picture here. This is Jesse and Michelle Bowling with a beauty of a redfish they caught with me this week right along the intercoastal.
Man, Tommy, your pictures are the bomb,
are freaking awesome.
Thanks, guys.
All right, let's
moving
go ahead.
Offshore, I spoke with Captain Jason Hadges from jhookfishingcharters.com, and he tells me the cobia have started to show back up on the nearshore wrecks and reefs. Now, with this northeast wind flow we've got going, the water temperatures are going to start to cool off a bit, and that's going to send those cobia out to those nearshore areas. Captain Jason says he's been catching some nice ones. He's using live grunts and a different assortment of jigs this week. And he says over the next couple of weeks, he's going to really look for more of those cobia to start showing up. I got one more picture here of a nearshore cobia Captain Jason caught. This is Jerry Finch and Jason's first mate, Drew Castle, with a hefty cobia they caught aboard his boat, the J-Hook. Now, also offshore, the bottom fishing is really good, and the trigger fish are still chewing really good right now. All the offshore captains I talked to out of the Conch House in St. Augustine, they're catching a bunch of nice trigger fish. I spoke with Captain Luke Thatcher from FishSt.Augustine.com, and he's been catching easy limits of those triggers in the 120 to 140 foot depth. He's finding those fish tightly schooled up on small little ledges. He says when you find them, you're going to see them tightly balled up on your Humminbird bottom machine. He's using a small 2/0 VMC circle hook with a piece of squid wing for bait. It stays on the hook really good. Those fish are running anywhere from 4 to 6 pounds with a couple of 8-pounders mixed in, and those are some good eats.
All right, thank you so much, Tommy. Great report from the Strike Zone Northeast region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots and see what Tommy says we should be doing. Inshore redfish. On the low tide in the morning along the ICW, fish in and around the schools of finger mullet along the shell bars use topwater or live cut mullet for bait. And then offshore, cobias. Starting to show up on the nearshore wrecks and reef. As the water cools down, look for more of those cobias to show up offshore, right, Brie?
Right, Rick. From the Decks and Docks East region is Captain Mike Holliday, who has the Bass Report every week. So now's your time to shine, Mike.
Yeah, and it's my region to shine. We got so many good options in my region that you can literally toss a bait in a mud puddle and catch a bass. There's, the smaller public areas like Lakes Ida and Lake Osborne, the Loxahatchee Canal, the lakes in Halpatioke Park, the Savannah's recreation area, along with a ton of, small lakes and canals to fish along I-95 and the Florida Turnpike that are all full of bass. And let's not overlook Lake Okeechobee, one of the top 10 bass lakes in the country, and I'm sure one that Scott Martin will talk a lot about more, as we get along there. But the shad are schooled up, and the bass are chewing on Okeechobee. And then there's the Stick Marsh Farm 13 Reservoir and the Garcia Reservoir, both which are west of Vero Beach and get a lot less traffic than some of the larger lakes, but have some huge fish, and on some days some really big numbers. If you target bass in Florida, you want to have these 3 lures in your tackle box: a blue and chrome lipless crankbait, a June bug colored worm, and a white spinnerbait. Those are the 3 go-to Florida lures, and as well as soft-bodied frog. You want to have some swim baits. You want to have a fat-bodied worm, the rig Senko style, and maybe a topwater plug or 10 to throw in your mix. Live shiners will always get you the most action and often the largest fish, particularly in the heat of the day. And you want to go with wild shiners when you fish live shiners over domestic shiners. And the reason for that is because wild shiners swim towards the cover where the bass hang out, Well, domestic shiners, they like to swim out into the open water and away from the bass. I got a photo there. That's 12-year-old Gene Powell Jr. That's the biggest bass he's caught so far. He caught that in the Stick Marsh fishing with Captain Mike Arnoldy, and that fish ate a live shiner.
All right, let's go inshore. Maybe some snook. You got anything for me?
Man, that windy, stormy weather that we're getting right now, that's what we really need to get the bait fish moving and fire up the snook bite. It's been showing improvement all week. There's a good push of mullet in the Indian River, basically from Sebastian Inlet all the way south to the St. Lucie Power Plant. The snook are all over those baits on the shoreline. There's also a nighttime bite on North and South Bridges in Fort Pierce, on the Evans Prairie Bridge in Stewart, and on the A1A Bridge in Jupiter. And those fish are chasing mullet, pilchards, and there's a pretty big school of minnows on all those bridges after dark as well. And then there's also, a lot of fish still on the beaches throughout the region with the Vero Cove, Tiger Shores, and the Juneau and Lake Worth Piers. They're all producing snook of all sizes right now. A lot of overslot fish, a lot of underslot fish. The fishing on the beach is particularly good when the mullet are pushing and there's a small swell, to help disorient the bait fish. And the snook are really hyper-focused on mullet right now. So topwater plugs, swimming plugs, and soft-bodied swim baits are the way to go. We're going to have extreme high tides all week. You can fish a saltwater assassin dye dapper or elite shiner, fish it weedless, and swim it down a seawall and watch the snook blow it up. You can also fish live mullet, and if you do, hook the mullet through the back or nose if you're going to fish the seawalls and docks, and then hook it underneath the anal fin if you're going to fish off the beach. Average snook in my region, 6 to 15 pounds, but this is when we get to 30-pounders from now for the next month. I got a photo there. That's Captain Ken Hudson. He had a day off this week, and he managed to get out there and wreck the snook. He was fishing live mullet up against the seawalls. He was fishing in the intercoastal waterway just south of Stewart, not quite to Hopetown. He caught all his fish during the daytime. So the snook bite's on, guys.
All right, let's go offshore, Buff.
Well, we're starting to see the first of those northeasterly winds, northerly winds that we see in the fall. And what that does is it brings the dolphin back south for the winter. The dolphin bite isn't as good as it was last month, but there's an entire new batch of fish coming through on these northerly winds with the best stuff still out deep, 400 to 1,000 feet of water or more. You can certainly catch dolphin in shallower than 70 feet of water on out, but the larger fish and better concentrations of fish are out where the crowds aren't there thinning them out. It's still kind of a run and gun type of fishing. That's been the same deal for the last couple of weeks. You run until you find something that looks productive before you put out any lines, and then move until you find fish. And we're starting to see a lot of finger mullet pushing on the beaches and also inshore around the inlets. So don't overlook the option of loading the live well with finger mullet, making 1-2 throws with the cast net, and getting out there, look for something good, and either live chum or slow troll around the areas that look good. The standard's going to be ballyhoo, skirted strips, and live sardines. And the average dolphin's going to be 8 to 18 pounds. The other deal, the snapper bite, is probably the best snapper bite of the year in my region. And the thing you want to pay attention to, there's a lot of small mutton snapper in the mix. So you want to be sure to carry a measuring tool and know all the snapper size and aggregate bag limits. Places like North Beach Reef, the Sand Pile off Stewart, the reef off Peck's Lake off Hopetown, they have a lot of snapper on them right now. The best action by far, though, is off St. Lucie County in 65 to 90 feet of water. That's where there's some huge mangrove snapper being caught, fish up to 10 pounds, and a lot of, 3, 4, 5, 6 pound average fish being caught there. The 75-foot to 85-foot ledge off Juneau is also producing a lot of snapper, but there's a ton of small muttons in that mix, borderline muttons, and then there's some occasional big muttons off the Loran Tower ledge if you're really targeting muttons. Your best snapper fishing is going to take place at night, but the daytime action can also be, pretty fast, especially if you chum with pilchards or glass minnows. For baits, live or dead sardines or cigar minnows are the top baits, but everything from ballyhoo plugs to pilchards, squid, and even live shrimp are taking fish right now. Gear down a little bit, use 20-pound tackle, 20 to 40-pound fluorocarbon leader, and a 4.0 VMC circle hook. The average mutton snapper is going to be 1 to 3 pounds with fish to 10 in the mix, where the average mutton snapper is going to be, and yellowtail snapper is going to be just over a pound. So a lot of big mangrove snapper, not as many muttons.
All right, Bub, we got to go. Thanks. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Decks and Docks East region. Inshore tarpon. on the beach from Vero Cove south to Fort Pierce Inlet. Look for the mullet schools and fish a live mullet or chartreuse colored swim baits. And then offshore, live chum pilchers for the black fins and the skipjack tunas in 200 to 500 feet of water off North Palm Beach County. Pilchers on the 30-pound fluorocarbon will get you the bites.
Say bye, Felicia. Okay,
Bye.
Stay hooked, anglers. When we return, we're visiting the Panhandle region and checking out some new products with Scott Martin. Scott, what you got for us over there?
Well, when we come back, I'm going to be sitting here at the workbench. We're going to be showing new baits for upcoming season and some new products. It'll be some cool stuff.
Can't wait. We'll be right back.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by the Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. Hookup Lures, premium lures for serious anglers. FWC, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. La Jolla Resort, a place for family and fishermen. Navionics, we start where the road ends. Maverick Boat Company, celebrating 30 years of leadership in innovation, conservation, and stability. And First National Bank, your first choice for better banking.
At Yamaha, reliability is a family tradition. Meet the next generation. 4 new advanced technology-inspired inline 4-cylinder performers. Bred from the reliability and boater satisfaction that is part of Yamaha's DNA. They prove that when power gets lighter, faster, stronger, and smarter, boating gets even better. And more satisfying for boaters like you.
You know there's more to it than luck. There's fishing the right bait, the water temperature, the wind, the season, and then there's the boat. We'll put it simply, the boat matters. To own a Contender is to own the best sport fishing boat on the market, period. Contender offers the most comprehensive model range with bigger, faster, and more fuel-efficient boats than the competition. There's only one choice for serious anglers. Contender Boats. Performance through innovation.
All fishermen are created equal. Some just use better fishing line.
For over 30 years, Guy Harvey has been a true hero to marine life and conservation. And now he's sharing his inspiration with an exclusive image for the Guy Harvey Heroes Scratch-Off game from the Florida Lottery. Win up to $50,000, incredible sport fishing trips, and the opportunity to fish with Guy Harvey himself. Celebrate your everyday heroes and the freedom to play with the Guy Harvey Heroes Scratch-Off game today. The Florida Lottery. Just imagine.
You know, guys, a few years ago, Helmmaster was introduced and there was some misunderstanding. A lot of people out there in the field felt like you could only get the electronic fuel management systems as well as all the gauges and shifting only through Helmmaster, and that's truly not true. So here's what I need you to understand. If you're buying a 4.2 liter or any of the motors that are electronic motors that Yamaha has, you can get the gauge that has all the gauges in one. This particular gauge readout has our port, our starboard trim, we have our RPMs, we also have the gas in all of them, the trim ranges, as well as it gives us a speed readout, economy readout, and a fuel flow under the different RPMs that we have. The other thing that comes with the electronic packages is electronic shift, making our shifting very easy. There is no cables. It's all been removed. As well as we got remotely being able to start each motor independently. Now the other thing that comes with this package is YCOP. And what YCOP simply is a remote that allows you to disarm the whole electronic system, preventing your boat or motors from being stolen. So keep that in mind. If you want some more information, go down to your Yamaha dealer and ask them about all the electronic gauges and options that Yamaha has to offer. Well, welcome back to the CCA Workbench, and Scott Martin just got an education on the Rick Murphy-isms, but we're here to talk about new products. Tell me about what's going on in the bass.
I'm so excited. I tell you what, you know, this is the time of the year where the big bass start showing up. They start moving in, they start getting in those grass mats, the big rods like we're talking about here. This is when all this stuff starts working. The new product that I've designed is from Tightlines UV, and it is this creature bait right here. But here's what's different about it, Rick. Check it out. So what's different about this bait is it's a standard creature bait, okay? But it has the skirt material in it, just like I have rigged up here, okay? This is a punch skirt that we put on as an accessory.
Right.
But so instead of doing that, we designed the bait with the punch skirt material in the bait.
Oh.
So now you don't have to spend time rigging another skirt and doing all kind of different things. It's all in one, and it gives that bait a little bit bulkier of an approach. When it goes down through that mat and it hits the bottom, that skirt flares out, okay? Yep. And those big bass chew on it. So that's really cool. Comes in lots of different colors, and 3.5-inch bait. It's deadly.
All right, speaking of big bass, you gotta have some beef.
Beef.
Tell me about the new signature series Scott Martin rods.
It's kind of like that old commercial, where's the beef, right?
Yeah,
the beef is in your hands. This is the Matt Daddy rod by Kuma. Brand new series of rods. We built 13 rods in this series, okay? Now what's great about this rod series is that I designed every aspect of it, okay? I designed from the length to the action to the type of graphite to the type of guides, exactly where they went. Everything you can imagine, Rick, I put into this. Years and years of experience. And these 13 rods in this Akuma series, the TCS Signature Series, is bar none the best rods out there. And here's the deal. Here in Lake Okeechobee and in South Florida, dealing with big fish, you've got to have equipment that holds up. And these rods are holding up.
So let me ask you something. We have spinning rods, we've got plug rods, we've got casting rods,
We
flipping
have everything.
rods. I love it.
We have everything.
All right, so speaking of that, I know you're an expert on bass lures. Bass Assassin has come out with this new tube crawl. So tell me, you know, I think this is one of the things that comes in a variety of different colors, but when I was talking to you, the one thing that you liked about this is certainly that it doesn't have too much craziness.
When you flip in the grass mats, you want a bait to glide, okay? You want that bait to glide through the water column. And what that does, it imitates two things. With this bait, it's going to imitate a crayfish, okay? A crayfish getting out of that grass mat and gliding down to the bottom. A crayfish is not flapping his claws everywhere when it swims, and neither is a bluegill. It's swimming and gliding. So that bait is set up right, just like these baits here. Even though it has a lot of appendages, not a lot of action. So that bait right there looks great.
All right, you guys in the freshwater, you're using something, you're calling to the wild, calling the fish. Tell me a little bit
Technology
what this deal
is so awesome these days, you know, between the depth finders and all the different things you can do. Hydrowave, okay, has come out with an electronic speaker system that I attach to my trolling motor on my bass boat.
Right.
And it has a programmable chip in there that makes noises for what like bait fish sound like. So what a school of shad would sound like in the water, or crayfish crawling around, or bluegill doing things in the water, that's what this speaker is going to imitate, and it gets those fish fired up and gets them ready to feed.
Scott, do you think we could use this in salt water? We could program it to what
absolutely.
A goggle eye sounds like?
Absolutely. They have an inshore one right now, and so this stuff is awesome. The Hydrowave is the next little thing.
The next commercial break, you're going to be giving that up. I want you to know.
I hear it right now. I hear it.
If I hear something else over there, Brie, we got to go to another region. You think that bait thing to calling you?
Truly, 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 I do, Rick. That was really, truly awesome. Okay, Captain
I knew I wasn't
Patanine
gonna get away with that.
No, you won't. Captain Patanine is ready to rock in the Panhandle region with your weekend report, bass included. Hey, Pat.
Hey, Brie, I tell you what, bass fishing is popular in the Panhandle, both along the coast and also inland. Fall is a great time of the year to fish for bass when the weather starts cooling off and the water starts cooling, and so is the springtime as it goes from the cold to warmer water. And along the coast, the most popular and sometimes the most productive waters are the golf course lakes. And most of the courses, they don't mind anglers fishing early in the morning or late in the afternoon. An 8 to 10-inch blue or black worm is a great go-to bait to fish those ponds. And there's no shortage of golf courses along the Gulf Coast. And generally speaking, the older the golf course, the better the fishing. So the lakes in Sandestin or even over in Burke Pines are good ways to go. And then we also have a lot of coastal lakes in South Walton, in particular Topsail Beach State Park. And all of these coastal lakes have good bass fishing on the northern end of it where we got the freshwater inflow. And then the water's really good and clean, and those bass are generally pretty good to eat. And then inland, we've got numerous bigger lakes and reservoirs. The Hurricane Lake, Deer Lake, King Lake, Lake Talquin, just to name a few, are all great and very popular bass fishing lakes. And most of them have lodges or weekend facilities for guys to go and spend the weekend and, have a weekend on the water. And then also we've got the rivers like the Chalkahatchee River, the Apalachicola River. They're all great bass destinations, particularly fishing around where those rivers dump out into the bays, the delta systems, or on the Oxbow Lakes upriver. And right now the water's pretty low. It kind of concentrates those bass in those lake areas. And fish at channel edges, the points, and also anywhere you find bait is a great place to go. Typically the lake and pond bass are going to be bigger than the fish you're going to find in the river system.
All right.
Rick, staying inshore. September's a great time for big jackerville within the Panhandle waters. And right now there's some schools of big fish moving around. They're going to be where the bait is. So the bayous with menhaden concentrations or the shorelines with abundance of mullet are the places to find them. On the calm days, you can see these fish pushing wakes as they come down the shoreline, or you can see them or hear them up in the bayous as they crash those pogey schools. They're going to readily take live baits like a mullet or menhaden, but also on the flats, a skitter walk, skip across the surface is a great way to go. And also, if you're in the area with those big schools of menhaden, a storm swim bait, a soft plastic swim bait is very effective. Jacks are running up to and well over 30 pounds, and if you're not finding them in the flats or the bayous, go to the bridges or the points and chum with pogies and let them find you. And there's a photo of my mate, Adam Schrader, and he's got a really nice jack this week while he was fishing Santa Rosa Sound for redfish.
Whoa, that's a monster crevalle.
Yeah, that's a nice one right there.
Let's go offshore, bub.
Offshore, Rick, there's been some good mango reports coming from the crew of Swoop out in Destin. They're fishing their wrecks in the natural bottom along the south edge of the Mingo Ridge in 150 to 180 feet of water. Use a 2-hook chicken rig baited with either cut sardines or squid. Generally, you want to fish your bait a couple, maybe 5 cranks off the bottom. But this week, the Swoop crew had them chummed up almost to the surface. So if the current's not bad, you can get those fish coming up high in the water column. The Mingos are running 2 to 3 pounds. And finally, offshore, the 100-fathom curve out to the canyon has a lot of bait on the surface, primarily bonitas and blackfin tunas. And where you find these, the bait schools, you're going to find the billfish, both blue and white marlin. Water isn't deep blue, but it's cleaned up quite a bit from what it was a while ago. The elbow, the nipple, the 131 hole, the squiggles are all good places to find bait and also to find those bites. As always, keep your eye on the sounder. Look for midwater schools of bait, but also keep your eye on the surface. Look for weed lines, rips, and any floaters, all things that concentrate bait, and that's where you're going to find these fish. Full of combinations of lures and baits to maximize your chances. We've had a particularly good luck with the blue and white Moldcraft Wide Ranger on the short rigger, and also the Ballyhoo or Ballyhoo Islander combination off the long rigger or down the center. And in this type of fishing, you never know what your next bite's going to be. I mean, it could be a 10-pound dolphin or a 500-pound blue marlin. And there's a picture that proves the point. This is a big yellowfin tuna caught by Jerry Campbell. And we caught that fish trolling around schools of smaller blackfin, skipjacks, and yellowfins. There was no indication of a big yellowfin in the area, especially something of that class, but there he is.
Thank you so much, Pat. That's a stud, man. Let's go ahead and take a look at the blue water outrigger hotspots from the Panhandle region inshore. Flounder. They're starting to show up and move into the giggers are getting them at night around the bayou mouse and the sand potholes. And then offshore, troll live cigar minnows and herring and diving plugs around the buoy lines and nearshore bait schools for the big Spanish mackerel and the kingfish, Brie.
Well, Rick, it's truly true. Coming up, we're talking with our captains from the Central West and Southeast regions, only on the Chevy, Florida Insider Fishing Report.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Rapala. Catch the latest at Rapala.com. StarTron. Cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. Yeti Coolers. Built for the wild. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 30 years. Strike Zone Fishing, your fish hunt paddle store. Guy Harvey, marine wildlife artist and conservationist. And Sea Sucker, vacuum mounting systems.
Serious fishermen demand quality equipment on their boats and on shore. That's why Florida boaters have trusted Decks and Docks for over 20 years for dock lumber, hardware, and accessories. tough products that stand up to the roughest environments, and elegance to please the most discerning homeowner tastes. Decks and Docks, supplying waterfront customers with lumber, decking, and seawall, with 10 locations across Florida.
I have a video I want you to watch, and no matter what, I need you to stay focused. Don't take your eyes off the screen.
It's hard to stay focused. Text message alerts from Chevy Cruise let you send a text response at the touch of a button so you can focus on driving.
Find your tag, like $2,500 total cash allowance on select Cruise vehicles in stock.
Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
We're here at Power Pole headquarters, and today's Power Pole tip of the week is about my favorite power pole. Now, the blade I really like because of how aerodynamic a look it has. It's very sleek looking. Now, Power Pole took a lot of weight out of it by simply drilling the holes here, but make no mistake about it, guys. Whenever you deploy this, it's still just as strong and secure as any other power poles in the past. The other thing that I like is it comes in a variety of different colors. You have a choice of black, white, red, and blue. Now remember this, it also has a 8-foot option or a 10-foot option. So the reason why I like the blade as well is when I'm trying to keep it quiet and I go to put it up, it simply keeps it nice and quiet. Now watch how slow it closes here. That's called the slow close system. That's one of the reasons why I really like the blade, and it only weighs 28 pounds, and that's today's Power Pole tip of the week.
Okay, listen up, Central Westerners. Captain Jeff Page is about to give you the secrets for fishing your region this weekend. Hey, Page.
Hey, you guys. Well, you know, in the Star-Tron Central West region, we aren't really well known for our freshwater fishing, but we have some pretty good bass fishing, especially out in the eastern part of our region. Starting to the north, there's Lake Manatee and the Braden River, along with Upper Little Manatee and the Manatee River, which in the winter months can produce some spectacular bass, snook, and tarpon fishing. Moving south is Upper and Lower Myakka Lake, which is located in beautiful Myakka State Park, along with the Peace and Myakka Rivers. Also, a not-so-known spot is the FPL power plant in Parrish, Florida, which only has 2 open days where they allow the public to get in there, and you have to get on a waiting list. But if you get on board and get inside there, it's some of the best untouched bass fishing we have in our region. Some of the better baits that we use, of course, live wild shiners, but lures work as well, like the Bass Assassin 6 to 7-inch worm in motor oil or red shad color are tough to beat, and also the new Live Target bait ball series has been working really well. I've got a bass photo tonight of a fine young angler, Landon Ford. He's the son of Doug Ford from CB's Saltwater Outfitters.
All right, let's go inshore, Buff.
Staying inshore, redfish. As you know, you were just here, Rick. Red fishing remains consistent with lots of schools of fish, a lot of oversized, but lots of schools of fish in the south part of my region, especially around the West Wall and the Turtle Bay Bar area. Fish tight to the mangroves and oyster bars early in the morning on the higher stages of the water, and then fish your drop-offs and bars and ledges in that 4 to 5 feet of water, throwing cut ladyfish chunks or the Saltwater Assassin 5-inch Mississippi hippie jerkbait rigged on an 1/8 or 1/4 ounce hookup jig head. Got a photo tonight of a friend of ours, friend of the show's, Captain Jason Ramsey, with a nice redfish he caught last week.
All right, let's go offshore, Pop.
Offshore red grouper, good red grouper fishing is still going on right now in our region, and due to all the rains and overcast days we've had, the water has cooled down to the lower 80s, bringing the red groupers and gag groupers even closer. Live pinfish on standard bottom rig, fished over hard bottom in 75 to 100 feet of water, has been getting the better reds, according to Captain Jason Sherrill of the Bad Habit out of Venice. I've got a photo tonight of his first mate, Milton, and a happy client with a nice red grouper. Finally, species 2, mangrove snapper. Mang bite remains strong offshore as well as inshore. A lot of the offshore captains have been doing really good in as close as 45 feet of water over wrecks, ledges, and hard bottom. Live pilchards, pinfish, or shrimp on a jig head are working real well. And don't forget, everybody, get you a Chevy truck.
All right, Paige, thanks for a great report from the StarTron Central West region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the sea sucker hotspots. Inshore, snook. Good fishing on the morning outgoing tide with the free line pinfish or pilchard at Stump Pass and the Venice jetties. And then offshore, permit. Big groups still holding on 7 to 11 miles near the artificial reefs and wrecks off of Anna Maria south to Inglewood.
All right, moving right along, reporting from the southeast region is Captain Jimbo Thomas with a few bass fishing tips you're going to want to hear. You're up, Jimbo.
That's right. Hey, guys and girls. Well, here in the southeast region, largemouth bass, they can be found just about anywhere there's some fresh water. And one of the great things about bass fishing is that you don't need a boat in most areas, and the wind and the weather, like we've experienced the last couple of days, is not as much of a factor as in offshore fishing. Now, the Everglades, they've got some great bass fishing, especially when the water levels are low, and that concentrates the fish in those deeper holes, and catches of 50 or more fish in a day are not uncommon. And when the water levels are high, which they are right now, the fish will move up onto the flats, and then they get more spread out. But the bass fishing still can really be good when that water level is high. Now, the urban canals and lakes of the region, they also offer some great bass fishing, and they're not as affected by the water levels as much. The bass bite best early in the morning, and then later in the day and into the evening when the water temperatures are not as warm, or after we've had a lot of rain like we've had cooling down that water. And some of the best baits are live shiners, bass assassin artificial worms rigged Texas style, surface lures, crankbaits, and spinner baits, just to name a few. Now, staying inshore with bass of a different flavor, the peacock bass fishing has been really good in the urban canal and the lake system of Dade and Broward counties in the south end of the region. The best peacock fishing has been around structures such as bridge and dock piling in areas that have clear water with some current. And the peacocks, which have been in the 2 to 5 pound range, they've been hitting small live shiners and minnows, small rapalas and chartreuse or blue and silver, and quarter-ounce root beer-colored DOA terrorized. And unlike those largemouth bass, peacocks, they bite best right in the middle of the day when the sun is at its hottest. So make sure you put some sunblock on if you go out there peacock fishing.
All right, let's go offshore, Jimbo.
You got it. Offshore, this is shaping up to be one of the better dolphin fishing seasons that we've had in quite a long time. Here it is. We're in the middle of September. We're still finding and catching dolphin in good numbers. One of the reasons it's been so good, at least in my opinion, is because of the huge amounts of sargassum weed that's been coming through. It's been holding a lot of bait. If you find the seaweed, you're most likely going to have a good day of dolphin fishing. Now, we've been fishing the weed lines and big patches of grass anywhere from 10 to 20 miles offshore and catching the dolphin on trolled rig ballyhoo, small lures, and feathers. And once we do locate the fish, we've been using live bait, and there's been no shortage of those small blue runners around the grass. You can sabiki those up around those patches to make your own live bait as you go. And we've also been using cup bonita and ballyhoo. There's also been some bird activity over the fish, and anything floating has also been holding fish. And a lot of these schoolies have been in the 8 to 12 pound range, and there's been quite a few larger fish up to 40 pounds mixed in. Now, a little closer inshore, there's been some kingfish starting to show up after they've been almost non-existent most of the summer. The bulk of the kings are being caught on the troll with 3.5 drone spoons or a pink sea witch with a strip bait fished on a wire line or behind a planer. You want to use a long leader, 30, 40, even 50 feet, and fish in 90 to 130 feet of water. If you can find some blue water with some north current, that's going to be the best. There's also been some kings caught on live pilchards and herrings, but the trolling's been producing more fish but the size has been better on the live bait. The Kings have been in the 5 to 12 pound range, and the areas from Boca Inlet north to Lake Worth Inlet seems to be where the Kings have been biting the best.
All right, great report from the Southeast region, Captain Harry's region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the First National Bank of South Florida's hotspots inshore. Fish your local lakes and canals with live and artificial baits for both largemouth and peacock bass. And then offshore, look for the dolphin under the birds, around the weed lines, and under anything floating anywhere from 8 to 20 miles offshore, Brie.
All right, on another note, if you want to meet this guy, Captain Rick, he'll be at the Gulf Shores Shrimp Festival in Orange Beach, Alabama on October 10th and 11th, so don't miss it.
I can't wait.
Sure
We're going to
is.
be eating shrimps, and Pat Deneen will be with me.
Shrimps
it's gonna
and
be
grits?
Good. Yep,
Shrimps and grits, of course. All right, well, coming right
Trinity
up, we have the Coast to Conservation Minute Tip, and then we're visiting the Keys. But we're going to see what our audience members are scratching off on their Florida Lottery Guy Harvey tickets. We'll see if we have any winners.
Come on, winner,
Come on,
chicken
scratch,
dinner.
Scratch, scratch. Oh, look at that, already.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Chevrolet, find new roads. Yamaha, reliability starts here. Suffix, the world's most hardcore fishing line. The IGFA, conservation through education. Get your hands wet. Florida Outdoor Experience. Captain Harry's Fishing Supply Company. Best parts, best prices. Bennett Auto Supply. And there's no stopping Okuma.
Introducing Helmmaster, Yamaha's first fully integrated digital boat control system. With Helmmaster, you can start your outboards with a swipe of a paw and control them with a single lever. Outboard trim and steering friction adjust automatically as you accelerate and decelerate. Adjust engine speed with the touch of a button. The Helmmaster joystick provides the means to navigate and dock precisely with confidence and ease. Take control of your next vessel with Helmmaster at your command.
Introducing the Yeti Hopper. Leak-proof, ice for days, tough as nails. Built to go the extra mile, and then some.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
There are 2 cages in this room. The one on your right is made out of high-strength steel, and the other is made of aluminum. Now I'm going to release a 700-pound grizzly bear, so pick a cage and get in it.
Well, I'm glad I picked this cage.
Why did you pick the steel cage?
That's a big animal right there.
You want to see something else made with high-strength steel? That's the Chevy Silverado, made with high-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
It's beautiful. Look at the size of his head.
Okay, everyone, when you think of fishing in the Keys, you may not think bass, but Captain Randy Tao may have some secret spots that will surprise you.
Let's see.
Hey, good evening, fish fans. You know, that's true. You don't think of the Keys as being a place where you'll go and catch largemouth bass or peacock bass, but the north part of the Keys, actually as you're coming down to the Keys, there's a road that goes out to the west toward Flamingo, and along that highway, there are several areas along the way that have small little ponds that you can stop and put a boat in and either pole around or paddle around or use a trolling motor because you can't have a regular engine. And some of these ponds have some nice fish in them. Not big, but a lot of action, especially on a dark-colored worm. You can get in some of these ponds maybe on a nasty day or a cold day and have some great fishing. Now, one of the hot spots that everybody likes to go to is the Aerojet Canal, which is on the 18-mile stretch. You go over top of this canal as you're heading to the Keys. Now, there's a boat ramp right there on the east side of the bridge, and a lot of guys put their boats in there, and it's probably a 5 or 6 mile canal that these guys will fish along the banks, and also there's some little creeks that go off to either side, and the mouths of these creeks and pipes are where some nice peacocks and largemouth bass hang out. And it's pretty popular for a lot of guys that want to do something different. And a friend of mine, Brandon Pans, sent me a photo from a couple of days ago fishing with his buddy Sammy Carson out of Key Largo with a 7.5-pound bass they caught in the Aerojet Canal.
Dang, that's a big one. All right, speaking of big ones, you got any snook info for me? I might go this weekend.
You know, the snook fishing still remains pretty strong, and it's all over the place. Some guys are catching small fish. Some guys are catching some over slot. You know, it really seems to be different almost every day. And depending on where you're going, if you're fishing around Flamingo or if you're using live bait or if you're up on the flats, there's several ways to go about catching a snook. Something that I like to do is use live bait like pinfish or finger mullets. And this time of year, I fish a lot of the beaches and shorelines and places like that where you've got the incoming tide has been the best for me for some of the fish I've been catching, using a 1/4 to a 3/8 ounce hookup with a live finger mullet has been working nice. Now, some places that I've been fishing, you'll catch a 20-inch fish, and then the next cast, you might catch one 32 inches. So really don't get discouraged if you're in a spot and you're catching small ones, because there might be a big one there. And I've got a photo from a couple of days ago with Karen Hales with a 40-inch snook she caught.
That's a big fish. Good job, Randy. Let's go offshore, man.
You know, we got to talk about the dolphin. We're winding down the dolphin fishing this year. It's been great all summer, but you know, they're starting to thin out a little bit, and we're in a little transition where the guys aren't going as far offshore. They're starting to stay in a little bit closer and look for other things. But there are a few dolphins still. If you find that magic piece of debris, you're probably going to catch a few dolphin on it. Maybe not a 30-pounder, but certainly some schoolies and gaffers, and any of the weed lines. You're going to have some fish on it as well. Right now, some of the fish are starting to show up closer into the reef in that 120 to 250 feet of water, and guys are finding them inshore now pretty consistently. If you see that man-o-war bird flying around inshore right now, he's probably going to be on a big dolphin. That's where you're going to find your slammer right now.
What else you got for me offshore, Bub?
The blackfin tunas, we've talked about them the last few months. They're still here. They're cooperating nicely. Guys are catching them. I'm expecting any day to hear a report that they've thinned out and they're not there. But it hadn't happened yet, especially with the stormy weather we've been having. The bite's been really good out there throughout the day because of the overcast. Now, several ways to do it. If you want to troll for them, the trolling's been working really nice, catching fish in the 5 to 10-pound range. If you want to get your live bait and go out there and live chum these fish, you're going to have a chance at a 20 or 30-pounder. But just like the tunas are there, the sharks are there. So here again, with some of the transition we're in right now, these tunas are going to start to move off of those offshore humps, and we're going to start finding them along the edge of the reef. Probably this month, you'll start seeing some nice big tunas coming in a lot shallower.
You got a photo for me here, Bub?
I don't have a photo of a tuna.
No photo? Okay. I misread something here. All right, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the La Jolla hotspots from the Florida Keys. Captain Randy says inshore snook. Fish the incoming tide with finger mullet using 3/8 chartreuse hookup jigs. And then offshore, yellowtail snappers. Anchor in 60 to 65 feet of water. Chum heavily. Wait 20 minutes before you start fishing, Brie.
All right, well, you know what happens after Randy.
Yeah.
Tournament time. Let's talk tournaments in the Keys. All right, honoring the late Miami Dolphins tight end, the Mad Dog Mandich Fishing Classic, scheduled for October 9th and 10th in Isla Mirada, has both inshore and offshore divisions. The 3-day Isla Mirada Fall All-Tackle Bonefish and Permit Championship is set for October 11th through the 14th and attracts energized newcomers to face seasoned veterans like you, Rick.
Yes.
Billed as the No Yellin' School of Fishing, the Ladies Let's Go Fishing University is scheduled for November 13th through the 15th in the Upper Keys, where female fishing fans can learn or polish their angling skills during the weekend seminar. The Isla Mirada Sailfish Tournament, set for December 3rd through the 6th, is the first leg of the Triple Crown Florida Keys Gold Cup Championship. It's the only Gold Cup tournament to offer a junior division for anglers 16 and younger. The Maverick Boat Company Owners Tournament is going on September 24th through the 27th. This Keys tournament staple is going on its 29th straight year and is a family fun event for Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia owners. And now, what do you say we welcome Andy Newman. Hey, Andy.
Well, hi guys. The 4th annual Chica Lodge All-American Backcountry Tournament is set for November 12th to the 14th in Alamorada. Now, the event serves as a fundraiser for the Guides Trust Foundation, and it will host 2 veteran soldiers to compete as a team in honor of Veterans Day. Trophies and prizes will be up for grabs for releasing 5 different species of fish. They include snook, redfish, bonefish, tarpon, and permit. Tackle divisions include fly, artificial, and general. Both individual and team trophies will be awarded. There's more details at chica.com, and for more information on all tournaments in the Florida Keys, go to flakeys.com. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Andy. Okay, guys, the reports are in, but stick around to hear what we'll be talking about next week on our last show of the season, right here on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. Cue the tears. Wow.
Brand do you think offers best-in-class HD towing, best V8 horsepower, and has Motor Trend's 2015 Truck of the Year? Ram.
Chevy.
What do you think?
A Ford.
Here's the answer. That's the Chevy Silverado HD, the Chevy Silverado, and the Chevy Colorado.
Chevy.
It's Truck Month. Now qualified buyers get 0% financing for 60 months. Plus find your bonus tag and get $4,000 cash allowance on select Silverado 1500 crew cabs in stock. See your local Chevy dealer today.
I got my first Yamaha in 1994, and I still use that outboard in the Bahamas today. This Yamaha 130 has over 2,000 hours on it, and it sometimes sits for 6 months. I can always depend on it starting and performing like it did when it was new. Everybody knows Yamaha stakes their reputation on reliability, and for me, that Yamaha 130 is living proof. So if you're considering a Yamaha, I can tell you that reliability and performance is something that you can count on for a long time. Forage fish are small fish that hold marine food webs together. Put simply, forage fish like pilchards turn sunshine into snook. The IGFA and other conservation organizations are working with the FWC to improve forage fish management in Florida. Ensuring that there's enough food in the water for our game fish will maintain Florida's legacy as the fishing capital of the world. Visit floridaforagefish.org to learn more and to sign the Forage Fish Pledge.
For over 30 years, Guy Harvey has been a true hero to marine life and conservation. And now he's sharing his inspiration with an exclusive image for the Guy Harvey Heroes Scratch-Off game from the Florida Lottery. Win up to $50,000, incredible sport fishing trips, and the opportunity to fish with Guy Harvey himself. Celebrate your everyday heroes and the freedom to play with the Guy Harvey Heroes Scratch-Off game today. The Florida Lottery. Just imagine.
Thanks for tuning in to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter to keep up with our captains, contests, and appearances. You never have to miss a show. You can find full episodes of the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report right on your YouTube channel. And make sure to check out our website for fishing reports in your region. Visit www.ChevyFloridaInsiderFishingReport.com for everything you need to know to stay hooked up. Next week on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, it's Throwback Thursday, and you'll have to tune in to see exactly what that is. Be sure to tune in to Sun Sports every Thursday, plus you can catch repeats of the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report on Fridays and Saturdays. Check your local listings for times. All right, we want to thank all of our studio audience members here tonight from the FGCU Fishing Club and some other guys that joined us. You guys all get fishing swag bags. Thank you to Florida Lottery, Guy Harvey, Costa, you guys are awesome. And Scott, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'll tell you what, I hope I'll be able to come back again soon.
Anytime you want. Now listen, I want to know.
You're kind of a big shot.
Yeah, how
big
you
trophy.
actually won the Angler of the Year.
I tell you what it is. To win Angler of the Year, we fish so many different bodies of water all around the country, from New York to South Carolina to Texas, all over. So I have to be versatile. I have to know a lot about a lot of different lures. So not just fishing big rods and big flipping baits. I need to learn how to throw the little Okuma spinning rods and drop shots and little jig head worms. I have to mix it up because there's so many different ways to catch bass, and those bass are smart. I mean, the weather's always changing. They're always throwing you a little bit of a curveball, and so versatility won Angler of the Year for me.
So do you guys get intel? You're allowed to do that like we do on the red fishing?
No, it shuts you down. It shuts you down about 2 weeks before the tournament. It goes dark. You can't communicate with anybody that's not in the event.
Right.
And that's good. That allows you to really clear your head, get out there. And for me, first day on the water, when I pull up to a strange body of water, I run around and I just kind of fish what I feel like fishing. I fish what the conditions tell me. If it's cloudy, I'll do this. If it's sunny, I do that. I don't really try to make them bite a certain thing. I do what I think the weather's telling me to do.
In 20 seconds or less, I want you to tell me how I catch a really big fish on a shiner.
All right, hook the shiner through the nose, put a cork about that far up above it, pick a windy grass mat, the same kind of grass mat you're looking for to flip, throw that shiner up there and hang on.
There you have it, guys. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. Say goodbye.
See you next week.